First of all, I want to present the introduction in the education materials. Education is the most important thing that any human should have. All humans are entitled to sufficient and worthy education as listed on the 1945 Constitution of the Republic of Indonesia. Article 31 Constitution of Republic of Indonesia Amendment about Education. Article 31, Section 1, it says every citizen deserves an education. And in Section 2, it says that each citizen is required to attend a basic education and that the government is obligated to pay for it. Maybe in the city, it is all filled up, but different from in the island. Island education is so far behind the city that it leads to a gap in education between the city and the inland. The gap can be seen from the number of teachers in the city, school, and island, where there are more teachers in the city than there are the teacher in very few in island. Even in school, there is only one teacher who teaches all grade levels and only one principal, but the principal in the city, not in the island. Why are the teachers in the interior too different from the one in the city? That is because of poor school facilities and inadequate transportation. That's why many teachers are reluctant to teach in the island. Indonesia, with abundant natural resources, could become a more developed country, but its natural resource not accompanied of human resource quality. That's making it more difficult for Indonesia to become a developed country. To increase the quality of human resource is with education. That's why education in Indonesia must be adequate and of good quality, so that Indonesia can create quality human resource adequate and of good quality, so that Indonesia can create quality human resource as well, and that is very important for advancing the Indonesian nation.
Many of the educational issues that governments have not solved every year. These problems include input, process, and output components that influence education in quality, whereas the components are interconnected and inseparably connected, where input components determine processes and processes which will eventually result from them. The problem of input is certainly the first and foremost of the many obstacles that follow. Externally, the input component that affects education improvements, according to Berliana 2017, is 1. The availability of adequate educators and labor. 2. The learning and infrastructure is available and can be used optimally. 3. Adequate education funding. And 4. An effective and efficient learning process. But some of the above should be provided by the government in fact have not been made available to the maximum. So it is a problem as well as a challenge to be completed immediately. The lack of availability of tools and infrastructure and the workforce of educators result in a sense of inequality. This disparity is common in city and island schools. With the teachers' limitations, and such infrastructure can cause children in the island to have less education and to have an impact on quality education. The presence of input component gaps is particularly affected by the process and output of education on the quality of human resource that will help both.
Regarding the problems of fulfilling educators of government through the Education Office has specifically tried to fulfill through the in the placement of new civil servant PNS teachers who are present in underdeveloped or remote areas. However, the facts on the ground show that many teachers are relocated to teach in remote areas for various reasons. According to Break 2006 in Rizadia, AK and Pramesti Pradanapi, one of the factors that causes the reluctance of teacher to teach in remote or disadvantaged areas in location of school that are difficulty to reach. The next reason is the lack of facility and entertainment. In Indonesia, in general, teachers who teach in remote areas do not feel at home due to inadequate facility. Apart from being far from the center of the country, the teacher resident facilities are also not fulfilled by government. As a result, many teachers feel uncomfortable and purpose to move to school located in urban areas. Given the various problems in providing education in underdeveloped or remote areas, the problem of education service shall not only be the responsibility of the government. The wider community, such various community organizations, NGO, and other organizations can be involved in helping to overcome that various shortage of education service and in remote areas. Thank you.
Problem. The Indonesian educational system in the West with the East is very different. In Papua, for example, there are still many children who don't have access to good schools. Today, during online study, it is very difficult to do so in Papua, as 64% of Papua's territory is not yet accessible to the internet. In addition to the issues, just as Tri said, a volunteer program of scholars teaching 3T for the Okika, the Star Mountains, Papua, says that in general, education there is still really fair for worthy. Access to the school was scarce. It had to be on the muddy roads until it reached the school. Even more so, many well-documented teachers teach in area, but they were literally not physically present but were far away in the city. Sure, children should be given attention and given education. According to data from the Statistics Center in Papua in 2019, 36% of Papua's people at age 15 to 24 and 89% and age 25 and older are affected by. Another example of this was based on an interview given by Brother Niaswanimbo, a literary figure in Papua who conducted the interview, which we will call the Hidden Indonesian Lantern, that of Mr. Soleman Hasugem, a teacher who taught 6 classes at the Wamerek Elementary School. He's been teaching for 11 years and still has the status of an honor. However, because access to the area is scarce, children at Wamerek Elementary School still use books from the year 2000.
But some children want to learn and want to be educated, and that's their hope, not to mention a trip to school full of challenges and obstacles, as was the case with Genius Tabuni, UGM student from Bergensi, Papua. He said that the distance between home and school was long. They had to leave early in the morning, sometimes without breakfast, and then the trip had to be up and down by a river, and not necessarily a good one. It gets bad, leaves the kids until school is late, then doesn't concentrate on learning in class, and doesn't absorb what the teachers say at school. It's very serious when you look at this. In fact, children's interest in learning children at school are great. However, all are not offset by the teaching force, the other tools and infrastructure that help support the teaching learning activity in.
So, I will add an explanation of what has been conveyed by Aulia and Jesi. It is feared that because of the lack of purity human resources in Papua, it will have an impact on their future. Competitiveness really needs the quality of human resources because human resources are able to move their productive sectors. The quality of Indonesian human resources is in the low category, and the low quality of human resources is caused by the low quality of education. The higher the education level of the population, the higher the quality of human resources in the country. Education will increase the ability of the population to process their natural resources, so that it will improve the welfare of the population. As long as quality education is not enjoyed by Papuans, during that time there will only be spectators in the midst of natural resources that corporations continue to undermine. That is why all this time Papuans have felt oppressed. They were born on rich land, but can only beat their fingers watching their natural resources being stripped by corporations. If the majority of Papuan youths were provided with a proper education, have qualified expertise from the results of studying at well-known state or universities, maybe Papua will not suffer this much.
Solution. Judging from some of the existing cases, it can be concluded that the quality of education has decreased, where the main problem is the lack of adequate access, be it the internet or crossed roads to school. For this reason, it is necessary to improve the quality of education, so that various solutions are met to the existing problems. Some solutions that can be done are the most especially the support and awareness of the local community towards students. In addition, the government also plays an important role in this problem. Efforts that must be met by the government are that the government can provide education budget assistance such as bidik misi, improve the quality of the teachers as well as reverse and improve the curriculum, which has less impact on the progress of education in remote areas. Lastly, by improving transportation access so that the journey taken is easier and less dangerous, and by building educational facilities and infrastructure to increase the comfort of the learning process.
Well, I'll add that already explained by Alicia, the another solution to build education in Papua should start with producing qualified educators who understand Papua's local language and culture. Thus, one way is to empower local youth who are qualified to be educated to become educators. To achieve that, it will be necessary and compulsory for the government to build a large university producing qualified teachers in Papua. Establishment of university was the start for producing high-quality teachers who knew local culture and were ready to serve even in rural Papua. If this campus taken seriously, surely the shortage of the teachers in the rural Papua can be overcome. Even more, on this campus the local youth can be able to empower Papua. The implication is that the children of the rural Papua can be educated with a culture that is maintained. Not less important is to ensure the welfare of devout teachers in rural Papua. So far, teachers who teach in the rural Papua are forced to be mentally higher than their knowledge. Eventually, if the teachers in rural Papua have prospered and were followed by the quality of capable education, then Papua's developed power is no longer a dream. For this reason, collaboration between the government and the private sector is needed to improve education development in the remote areas. Then, the Papua's people could host their own land.